StrayAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is the power of negative preparation. Yes, the power of negative preparation, or even you can call it the power of negative thinking. But before we get into this, let me tell everybody, I send out a text message. Right now, I think we're going to start sending it out weekly. This message is going to be guaranteed. This message is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your week. I'm not even going to give it an official title just yet, but we might call it the Monday Motivation. Let me just leak that out there. All right, don't aggregate that, don't post that, don't tell anybody. But I might call it the Monday Motivation. By the time you hear this, I've already decided what it's called, and I might be calling it that. I might have called it something different. But by the time you hear this, I've already had decided. But that's just a thought that I had today when I'm recording this. But in case any of y'all didn't know, I record these episodes a lot earlier than when you actually hear them. I record them weeks in advance from when they come out. But anyway, not anything for you to really care about. But you should care about this text message, because I am going to be sending it out regularly, and it will have you focused, sharp, and on point, like I promised you. And you should be getting it, which means all you got to do is pull your phone out. Actually, let me not say that. You already got your phone out. Just open up the text message app. You might already have it open, and text me at this number. 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. When I send out that text, whenever it is, if it's every day, if it's every month, if it's once a year, it doesn't matter. Whenever I send that text out, you should be receiving it, because you just text me right now, right? To join my text community. So every time I send that text, whenever it is, you'll be getting it. Secondly, oh yeah, that number's down below in the description for you slow mofos who didn't type it when I said it. If you need me to say it again, it's down in the description. It's written down. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. Right now in Work on Your Game University, as of this recording, again, by the time you hear this, this may already be implemented. We are adding some levels to Work on Your Game University. I understand not everybody can come in at the levels that are, as of this recording, currently available. And we ain't got too many levels right now. But we are adding some levels to the university. I was talking to a business partner of mine. We are looking at some ideas that I am brainstorming. I'm ultimately going to make the decision and the call on where things go and how they go. But we do things quickly over here at Work on Your Games. Once I decide something's happening, it's happening. So these things that I'm leaking to you right now, by the time you hear this, they will be completely implemented and in motion. All right, I don't take long. The time it takes for me to record this to the time it comes out, in that time, any idea I had is already happening. Done. All right, that's how we do things here. So when I tell you be fast and do things now, I'm not preaching to you and not doing the stuff that I'm telling you. I do the same stuff I tell you to do. So workonyourgameuniversity.com. You should go over there and see what's going on, because as of this recording, whatever is there today when you listen is not there right now when I'm recording this, but it will be there by the time you hear this. So go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and see what's going on in this world. Everybody, I hope I'm not going over anybody's head here. If I'm going over your head, then nothing that I'm doing is for you anyway. So I don't think I'm going over anybody's head. So now let's get into the topic. Topic, once again, is the power of negative thinking or negative preparation. Now, you may be wondering, Dre, why would anyone, especially someone like yourself who talks about discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative, and no success, why would you tell somebody to prepare for something negative? Why would you tell somebody to think negatively? That's a great question. And it's a legitimate question, since the title of this episode is The Power of Negative Preparation. So the simple answer to that question and how to do it, after I help you understand why you should do it, then you're going to know how to do it. Guess what? I'm going to give you all that in today's episode. So listen up and take notes. Point number one. Topic, once again, is the power of negative preparation. Number one, reason why you should think negatively is because negative shit happens, no matter how you decide to think. You can think as positive as you want. Some negative shit will still occur, not because of you, not through you, but it could happen to you. It could happen around you. And again, you can decide whether something's positive or negative, right? Everything that happens is neutral. You decide whether it's positive or negative. But when I say negative shit happens, what I mean is things that you did not want to happen will occur. So when I say negative, that's what I mean. Semantically, that's what I'm referring to. Things you didn't want to happen will happen. You don't have to call it negative if you don't want to. Just get the spirit of my point, not the letter of it. This is the number one reason why you prepare for the possible downsides of a situation. This is why you prepare for unwanted outcomes. This is why you prepare for unexpected circumstances in certain situations. You prepare for, what if this doesn't go the way that I thought it was going to go? All right. Even if you're the most positive thinking person in the world, even if you have been an active participant in my 48-hour experiment that I explained in, I think that was episode number, let me see what episode that was, because this is one of my favorite episodes when I did this. The 48-hour experiment was episode 2023. If you haven't listened to that episode, you should. Even if you're a person who thinks all positive all the time, no matter what's going on around you, it does not mean things that you don't want to happen ain't going to happen. All right, your thought process doesn't change what happens in the outside world, 99% of which you do not control. This is why, if you're having an outdoor event, you plan for what happens if it rains. That even though you're planning to make a bunch of sales, you plan for what happens if you don't hit your sales numbers. All right, even though you're planning to do a certain thing a certain way, what happens if someone else who's involved in that thing that you're doing doesn't pick up their end of the bargain? What are you going to do? What will you do to handle that situation? You're a basketball player and you're playing in a game. There are 5 people on the basketball team. So if your 4 teammates decide that they don't want to show up and play that day, they don't want to do anything, nobody's grabbing any rebounds, nobody's playing any defense, nobody can make an open shot, even though you're setting them up with good looks, and you want to win the game, well, it's not, I wouldn't call it a positive outcome that your teammates ain't doing shit in the game, but you still want to win the game. So what does that mean? I mean, you got to pick up the slack that they're not carrying, right? So you got to be ready to do that. So negative stuff happens. Just because you are hoping for the best and wanting the best does not mean that the best always occurs. You probably have enough life experience to understand this point, do you not? Remember, preparation, folks, is the hallmark of the professional, not positive thinking. Nobody's ever said that, and nobody will say it because it's not true. Positive thinking is not the hallmark of a professional. It does not mean you should not think positively. But the hallmark of a professional is preparation. Preparation means you are ready for whatever may occur, whether it's the things that you want or the things that you don't want. Now let's do some deductive reasoning here, folks. If the only thing you need to prepare for was the things that you want, then there'd be a whole lot more professionals on the planet, wouldn't there? All right, how many of you are professional at what you do, and you have some colleagues who are anything but professional, because the only time that they actually do their job is when everything's working the way they want it to work? All right, how many of you are understanding what I'm saying here? If you're not, don't worry, because I'm gonna break it down even further. But many of you already got the point. You're a professional at what you do because you're ready for whatever goes on. No matter how the day is going, you still show up and do your job. But you got some colleagues who only show up and do their job when everything's working, and everything's not working. You can't even tell that they're a professional by watching them. You see, if all it took to be a professional was to just have everything go your way, well, there'd be a lot of pros out there. But the reason there aren't so many pros is because sometimes things don't go the way we expect them to go. And you as a professional must still show up and do your job regardless of what's going on. I got a concept around that subject. It's called The Third Day. If you're watching on video, you can see the book right there over my right shoulder. You can get the book for free by going to thirddaybook.com. That's thirddaybook.com. The book is free. All you do is cover the shipping. Preparation is the hallmark of the professional, not everything going positive. The more prepared you are for a situation, prepared means for whatever happens, including the negative stuff, the more professional you are and the more predictable your performance and results will be, because your performance and results are based on what you do, and what you do is based on, you got to respond to what's happening in your environment, which you don't control. Again, you only control 1% how you're prepared. 99% you don't control. You can control your response, but you can't control the stimulus. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the power of negative thinking and negative preparation. Number 2, people and situations are predictable and unpredictable at the same time. Because if you've listened to the show enough, you probably heard me talk about this from both angles. I'll explain both of them right here. Number one thing you can predict about people is that they will be unpredictable. Again, any of you who works with people, any of you who has staff, any of you who deals with customers in a front-facing way, meaning you are actively engaged with and talking to your clients and customers on a daily basis, you know this, that people are predictable and unpredictable at the same time. Number one thing you can predict is that you won't know what's going to happen with people, right? Because people just do people stuff. Now, while it is true that humans are creatures of habit, and most people do operate by a certain routine, and you can predict a lot of times what somebody's going to do because people are creatures of habit. Same time though, You never know when that person's going to jump off of that routine and do something completely unexpected and completely out of your control. And you're like, what the hell? This person did the same thing the last 10 times. Now, all of a sudden, they decide to flip the script on me and do something completely different. How many of you professionals have had this happen with someone who you thought you could predict their behavior until you couldn't predict their behavior because they did something completely off the wall and completely out of character of what you normally expected of them? How many of you have had this happen? Any of you as a professional and you talk to people on a regular basis, you should have both hands in the air because this happens all the time. Remember that you don't control 99% of what happens in life. All you can control is what you do. That's the 1% that you own. So the one thing you can do in life is be prepared for the times when that 99%, everything else, doesn't go the way you expected. This is including other human beings who, again, you can predict, but sometimes you can't. If you look around in life, you will notice that very few business partnerships, for example, last forever. All right, the business partners that you think are going to be together forever don't stay together forever. They don't both stay together until they die. Most of the time, it doesn't happen. Business partnership can be two people owning a company 50-50. It can be a person working for an organization. It can be a client of a company. Almost none of them last an entire lifetime unless somebody dies before their time. And does that even count? It appears to be a natural thing that these things dissolve at some point. This is just human nature. All right, and who knows what the stats are these days about how many marriages end in divorce. Let's see. How many marriages end in divorce? What percentage? I'm asking Siri. Okay, so I'm going to, this website is, let's say, Forbes.com, revealing divorce statistics. All right, this is not to make any of you nervous who happens to be married, but it says 2021, a total of 689,308 divorces occurred across the 45 U.S. states that report the stat. So there are a few states that don't report the stat. Who knows why? But during that same year, 1.9 million marriages occurred, making the U.S. marriage rate 6 per 1,000 people. Let's see, we want the details about divorce. How many marriages in divorce? So what about the famous stat that half of all marriages end in divorce? It's true, but only when it comes to first marriages, half of which are dissolved. Second and third marriages actually fail at a far higher rate. So that means there's a better than 50% chance that anyone who's married, that your marriage will end in divorce, not in the death of one or both of the members of the marriage, at least according to this stat here at ForbesAdvisor.com. It says divorce comes at a big cost, a couple spending an average of $7,000 to dissolve their union. So if you want to get yourself some guaranteed money, America, any of you college kids are on your way to college, become a divorce attorney. All right, they're guaranteed to happen, and it costs $7,000 to dissolve it, at least according to Forbes.com. Anyway, I'm bringing that up to say everything dissolves. All right, things dissolve in life, even when you don't want them to dissolve or you don't predict that they're going to dissolve. You should prepare for the fact that they may dissolve and make sure that you are protected in such a case. Everybody got it? Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the power of negative thinking and negative preparation. Number 3. Part of your strategizing and planning for any situation is considering what you will do in the times when things don't go the way you expect them to go or the way that you want them to go. Let me repeat this. Part of your strategizing and planning for any situation is considering what you will do when things don't go the way you expect them to go or the way that you want them to go. What will you do in that circumstance? I've heard this guy named Dan Kennedy. He's a marketing guy from back in the day, still alive today, but mostly he's not as active as he was back in the day. And I've listened to some of his older stuff, and he talks about this. He says any business partnership that he gets in, he always makes sure that he puts in the paperwork, the documentation, some protection for himself if and when this partnership dissolves, because in his experience, every partnership at some point dissolves. Maybe he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. The other person decides they don't want to do it anymore. The market dries up and there's no reason for either of them to do it anymore. How do they break this thing up? How do they split up? Who gets what? How do they break all these things up? Dan also happened to be on his third marriage, at least as of the last I heard from him. And he said, hey, I went through some situations with that as well. And if I had not protected myself, it would be a very, very dire situation. And one time he didn't, and then next time he was prepared. So the whole point of it is you just got to be prepared ahead of time. Again, this is what professionals do. Doesn't mean you want the thing to happen, but you are prepared just in case it does happen. What if everybody scheduled to show up today doesn't show up? What if nobody shows up? What if the customer who you're expecting to buy doesn't buy? What if your partner does not fulfill their duty or responsibility? What if it rains outside? You should be prepared for every contingency, because the more complex and the more moving pieces you have involved in any situation, the higher the likelihood that one of those contingencies will actually come up and be needed. Everybody understands what a contingency is. That's like what you will do in case things don't go as expected. That's a contingency. So a contingency of having a picnic outside is that you're going to have the party inside. Like, what's the contingency? If you are not prepared for the situation, then you will be the one who looks bad, because you are a professional and people are expecting you as the professional to do all the thinking and all the work and all the preparation that they didn't do. All right. Most people are not professional. There are many people with professional titles that are not actually professional at their work. So you, as a consummate professional, you got the title and you really are a professional, you're going to be doing the prep work and nobody else is doing. So that when they dropped the ball and they weren't ready, you're ready. All right, they forgot their phone charger and their phone's about to die. You got an extra charger for them. All right, so you're that person. All right, you get everybody follow where I'm at here. If you didn't, rewind and listen to the whole thing all over again. Now let's recap today's class, which is the positive power of negative preparation and negative thinking. Why do this? Here's why. Number one, negative shit happens. It's the number one reason to prepare for the possible downsides, unwanted outcomes, and unexpected circumstances of life, because things happen that you did not want to happen. This is just how it is. Number two, people and situations are predictable and unpredictable at the same time. You can predict exactly what somebody's going to do because you do the same thing every time, until that one time that they don't do the same thing and you got caught sleeping. You got caught asleep at the wheel, and now you're the one who looks dumb because you were sleepwalking, thinking that people will keep doing the same thing they always did until the one time they didn't do it. So you always want to plan ahead of time, just in case this doesn't go the way I expected it to go. What will I do just in case? This is the prep work that you do every time. This is why a pilot who flies a plane, I don't know if we have any pilots who listen to this, there's a long checklist of things they got to go through before they start that plane. Before that plane actually gets up in the air, they got to get ready for flying the plane, even though the plane has flown perfectly every time the last 100 times. The last 100 flights all went perfect. They still got to do the pre-work before that plane takes off, because they got to be ready just in case of contingencies. If a contingency happens in that plane in the air, then everybody dies, and they don't want that to happen. That is professionalism. That is prep work. Point number three. Part of your strategizing and planning for any situation is considering what you will do in the times that things do not go the way they were expected to go. What will you do? This is why pilots and airplanes, usually two of them, right? Many planes, there are two people up there in the cockpit flying the plane. So just in case one guy's having a bad day, all right, one guy got served divorce papers from his wife, one guy's dog died, one guy didn't get as much sleep as he was supposed to, at least the other guy, the chance of both of them having that day at the same time is much less. All right, the whole point is you're prepared for the contingencies. If things don't go the way we expected, there's a plan B in place. Again, it's not that you want plan B to be the main thing, but just in case you need plan B, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Again, professionals understand this in their bones. All that said, text me so you are getting my motivation text whenever it's coming out. My number is 305-384-6894 and workonyourgameuniversity.com. We're adding new things to it. By the time you hear this episode, those new things are already there. So go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. If it was out of your range before, we may have something for you now. So go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all